The boardroom at Sterling Tech in Victoria Island, Lagos, was filled with 15 important people sitting around a huge table made of expensive wood. They were all dressed in suits and looking serious, ready for their meeting. But nobody expected what was about to happen. This story will hit different. Make sure you're subscribed. Ngozi Okofor stood at the door holding a bag of sandwiches and homemade chin-chin. She had come to surprise her husband, Chukwudi Sterling, with his favorite lunch. She thought maybe if she reminded him of the love they once shared, things would get better between them. She smiled nervously as she pushed open the heavy door. "Chukwudi, I brought lunch for you," she said softly. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. But instead of the warm smile she was hoping for, Chukwudi's face was cold and hard like stone. "Bad timing, Ngozi," he said, his voice sharp and cutting. "But since you are here, I have an announcement to make." Ngozi's heart started beating faster. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. She stood there confused, still holding that bag of food, expecting him to say something nice. Maybe he would announce a vacation they were taking, or thank her for being a good wife. "I am filing for divorce," Chukwudi said loudly, sliding a brown envelope across the table toward her. The room went completely silent. 15 pairs of eyes stared at Ngozi as her world fell apart right in front of them. Her hands started shaking. The bag of sandwiches almost fell to the floor. What are you saying?" she whispered, her voice barely coming out. But Chukwudi was not finished. He stood up, looking around at all the executives sitting there. "I want everyone here to understand that this marriage was a mistake from the beginning," he continued, his voice loud and confident. "I was manipulated by someone who saw an opportunity and took it. I will not be taken advantage of by a gold digger any longer." Gold digger. The word hit Ngozi like a punch in the stomach. In front of 15 people. In front of Chinyere, the beautiful light-skinned woman sitting at the table, barely hiding her satisfied smile. In front of people Ngozi had cooked for, laughed with, people she thought were friends. Ngozi could not move. Could not breathe. Could not think. Security guards appeared at her sides. Chukwudi had planned everything. Even them. They gently took her arms and started walking her toward the door. "Ma, please come with us," one guard said quietly, almost apologetically. Outside the building, camera flashes exploded in her face. Reporters. They were already there, shouting questions. "Mrs. Sterling, how do you feel about the divorce? Did you marry him for his money? What will you do now?" Ngozi stumbled to her car, still holding that stupid bag of sandwiches that would never be eaten. She did not remember driving home. Did not remember anything except the look on Chukwudi's face when he called her a gold digger. When she finally reached her small apartment, the one she had moved into after Chukwudi made her leave their mansion, she collapsed on the floor and cried. But what Ngozi did not know, what Chukwudi did not know, what nobody in that boardroom knew, was that inside Ngozi's body, a tiny life was growing. A baby. Chukwudi's baby. The one thing that would change everything. The one thing that would make Chukwudi realize he had made the biggest mistake of his life. But that secret would stay hidden for 3 more months. 3 months of pain. 3 months of tears. 3 months before the truth would finally come out. 3 years earlier, Ngozi had been a completely different person. She worked for a non-profit organization called Educate Africa that helped poor children learn to read and write. Ngozi had worked very hard to get where she was. She had an MBA degree from the University of Lagos, spoke 3 languages, Igbo, English, and Yoruba, and had built her career from absolutely nothing. Her parents were not rich. Her father worked as a mechanic in ABA, and her mother sold vegetables in the market. But they had sacrificed everything to send Ngozi to school. The night she met Chukwudi Sterling was at a big charity event at the Eco Hotel. Ngozi was there trying to get money for her literacy programs. She was nervous, wearing a simple dress she had borrowed from her friend, standing among all these rich people in their expensive clothes and jewelry. Then Chukwudi walked up to her. He was tall, handsome, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Ngozi earned in 6 months. You are the most intelligent woman in this room, he said, not even bothering with small talk. And trust me, I have talked to everyone. Ngozi was shocked. Here was this billionaire, this man whose face was on magazine covers, whose tech company everyone in Nigeria knew, and he was looking at her like she was the only person who mattered. Thank you, she stammered. I am just here representing my organization. We teach children to read. Tell me more, Chukwudi said, and he actually listened. Really listened. When Ngozi talked about her work, her dreams, her ideas about education and helping poor communities, Chukwudi's eyes never left her face. He asked questions. He took notes. He seemed genuinely interested in everything she said. The courtship happened so fast it made Ngozi's head spin. Weekend trips to Abuja. Front row seats at concerts. Dinners at restaurants where you needed to know someone important just to get a table. But what made Ngozi fall in love was not the money. It was how Chukwudi seemed to see her. Really see her. The wedding was like something from a movie. 300 guests. A dress that cost millions of naira. Flowers everywhere. Chukwudi's family was there, all of them from old money, the kind of people who had been rich for generations. Ngozi's family was there too. Her mother in her best ankara. Her father in a suit he had bought specially for the occasion. Her siblings who had never seen such wealth in their entire lives. Ngozi should have paid more attention to how Chukwudi's family looked at hers. How they smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. How they asked her mother what she did with that particular tone that made it clear they already knew and did not approve. How they kept calling Ngozi, Chukwudi's little project, when they thought she could not hear. But Ngozi was in love, and love can make you blind to warning signs. The first year of marriage was wonderful. Chukwudi was kind, generous, and proud to have her by his side. At business events, he would introduce her, highlighting her education and achievements. This is my wife, Ngozi, he would say. She has an MBA and runs the most successful literacy program in Lagos. But somewhere around the second year, things started changing. It was small at first. The way Chukwudi would suggest she might be more comfortable staying home when certain important clients came for dinner. How he would buy her expensive jewelry right after she mentioned wanting to take on more responsibility at work. How he would change the subject whenever she brought up her career goals. You do not need to work so hard anymore, my dear, he would say, pulling her close. You are married to me now. Let me take care of you. It sounded sweet, but it felt like a cage made of gold. The real problem started when Sterling Tech began facing serious business trouble. Another company was trying to take over Chukwudi's business. He became distant, stressed, working 18 hours every day. Their conversations became short, just talking about schedules and events. The man who used to ask about her thoughts on everything suddenly had no interest in what she had to say about anything. That was when Chinyere entered their lives. Chinyere was everything Ngozi was not. Light-skinned, 25 years old, from the same wealthy circle as Chukwudi's family. Her father owned hotels across Nigeria. Her mother was on the board of 3 different charities. And she had that easy way of belonging in spaces where Ngozi still felt like she was pretending. Ngozi first noticed her at the company Christmas party. Ngozi first noticed Chinyere at the company Christmas party at the Lagos Continental Hotel. The way Chukwudi's eyes stayed on her when she laughed. How he made sure to include her in conversations, asking her opinion on business matters he had stopped discussing with Ngozi. How his family seemed to light up around Chinyere in a way they never had around Ngozi. The signs were everywhere, but Ngozi told herself she was just being paranoid, insecure, jealous. All the things that Chukwudi started calling her when she tried to talk about her concerns. Chinyere is just a family friend, Chukwudi would say in that patient tone people use when they think you are being unreasonable. Her family and mine have known each other for decades. You are reading too much into nothing. But nothing does not leave lipstick marks on shirt collars. Nothing does not show up as hotel room charges when your husband claims to be working late. Nothing does not mean jewelry purchases from expensive stores when you have not received a gift in months. When Ngozi finally confronted him with the evidence, hotel receipts, credit card statements, photos of them together that she found on his phone, Chukudi did not even look ashamed. "You are being dramatic," he said, straightening his tie like they were discussing the weather. "Chinya and I are just friends. If you cannot handle the social requirements of being married to someone like me, maybe you should think about whether this marriage is really for you." The gaslighting was perfect. He made Ngozi feel like she was losing her mind. Like her concerns were proof that she was not good enough rather than proof of his betrayal. Like she was the problem for noticing that her husband was cheating on her. Ngozi should have left then. Should have packed her bags and walked away with whatever dignity she had left. But she loved him. And she kept thinking about the man who had swept her off her feet at that charity event. She kept hoping he would come back to her. Then came that terrible Thursday morning in March. Ngozi had decided to surprise Chukudi with lunch at his office. His favorite suya from the place in Surale, jollof rice, and homemade chin-chin. She thought maybe if she could just remind him of who they used to be, they could find their way back to each other. She walked into that boardroom with a smile on her face and love in her heart. And Chukudi destroyed her in front of everyone. The media picked up the story within hours. Tech billionaire dumps wife in boardroom drama. The articles painted Ngozi exactly as Chukudi intended. An opportunistic woman who had married for money and was now being thrown away when he got tired of her. Ngozi's phone would not stop ringing. Reporters wanting statements. Lawyers wanting meetings. Friends wanting explanations she did not have. The prenup she had signed was very strict. She would get a small settlement, enough to live modestly for a few years if she was careful, but nothing like the life she had been living. The worst part was not even the money. It was the isolation. People she had considered friends stopped returning her calls. Invitations to events stopped coming. The charitable organizations she had worked with suddenly found reasons why they did not need her services anymore. Chukwudi's family, who had never fully accepted her anyway, acted like she had never existed. Even some of her own family seemed confused about whose side they should be on. "Maybe you should try to work it out," Han said during one painful phone call. "He is a good provider, Ngozi. Marriage is not always about love." But her mother, God bless her, saw right through it all. "My daughter," she said, holding Ngozi while she cried. "A man who would shame you like that in front of all those people never loved you the way you deserve to be loved. You are worth more than that." Still, the depression hit Ngozi hard. She spent weeks barely leaving her small apartment in Yoba, scrolling through news articles about Chukudi and Chinya's romance. They were not even trying to hide it anymore. Pictures of them at restaurants, charity events, business conferences. The same events where Ngozi used to stand by his side. It took 3 months for Ngozi to start putting her life back together. 3 months of therapy with Dr. Amina, who refused to let her wallow in self-pity. 3 months of crying, of eating ice cream for dinner, of watching old Nollywood movies that made her feel even worse about everything. But slowly, with help, Ngozi started to remember who she was before Chukwudi's telling. She was Ngozi Okofor, MBA graduate, literacy advocate, daughter of 2 people who had worked their entire lives to give their children better opportunities. She was smart, capable, and valuable, not because of who she had married, but because of who she had always been. Ngozi started job hunting, which was harder than she expected. Her connection to Chukwudi opened some doors, but it closed many others. Some organizations worried about the media attention. Others seemed to think she was damaged goods. But eventually she found a position with a non-profit focused on educational equality. Work that mattered. Work that fed her soul in ways that planning charity events never had. The job paid a small salary compared to what she was used to, but it gave her something she had lost. Purpose. She was helping children who looked like her get access to quality education. She was writing proposals, developing programs, making a real difference. For the first time in years, Ngozi felt like herself again. That was when she discovered something that would change everything. She had been feeling tired, sick in the mornings, different for a few weeks before she finally bought a pregnancy test. When those 2 pink lines appeared, Ngozi sat on her bathroom floor and cried.